At Thanksgiving dinner, my in-laws announced my daughter was not really family. By Christmas, they learned what happens when you hurt a mother's child. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now let's dive into today's story. The Finch Ranch house sat on the edge of Red Willow, Iowa, where the town gave way to farmland and the wind carried the smell of turned earth even in November. The house itself was a sprawling single-story structure built in the 1970s, all wood paneling and low ceilings, the kind of place where family photographs covered every available wall space and the furniture had outlasted 2 generations. Gravel crunched under tires in the circular drive, and bare oak trees stood sentinel around the property like arthritic guardians of tradition. Lena Crowell stepped out of her sedan, the cold air biting at her cheeks. She was 36, with dark hair pulled into a practical ponytail and the kind of face that people described as pleasant without quite remembering specific features. She dressed in layers, sensible jeans, a navy sweater, a coat that had seen better winters. Everything about her appearance suggested someone who had learned early not to draw attention. "Maisie, grab the casserole from the back seat," Lena called, opening the rear door. Her daughter appeared beside her, 8 years old, with curious brown eyes and hair in 2 careful braids. Maisie wore the purple dress Lena had ironed that morning, tights without a single snag, shoes that still showed their shine. The girl moved with careful precision, reaching for the glass dish wrapped in aluminum foil. "I've got it, Mom," Maisie said, her voice quiet but certain. Lena watched as her daughter carried the dish toward the house, her small hands gripping it firmly, her steps measured to avoid the loose gravel. Everything Maisie did carried that same deliberate quality, as if she was constantly aware of being observed and judged. It broke Lena's heart in small, daily increments. The front door opened before they reached it. Carolyn Finch stood in the doorway, 63 years old and radiating the kind of authority that came from owning property and never being told no. She wore slacks and a cream-colored blouse, pearls at her throat, her gray hair set in the same style she'd worn since 1985. Her smile was practiced, warm in the way of someone performing warmth rather than feeling it. "There's my son's family," Carolyn said, stepping aside to let them enter. Her eyes swept over Lena briefly before settling on Maisie. The pause was almost imperceptible, but Lena had learned to notice imperceptible things. "Maisie, you look lovely. Is that a new dress?" "No, ma'am," Maisie said. "I wore it to the school concert." "Of course you did." Carolyn took the casserole from Maisie's hands. "Go put your shoes with the others, sweetheart." The house smelled of roasting turkey and cinnamon, that manufactured holiday scent that came from potpourri simmering on the stove rather than actual cooking. The living room sprawled to the left, already filled with family. Grant's sister Rebecca and her husband Todd, their 2 boys roughhousing near the fireplace. Grant's younger brother Daniel stood by the kitchen counter, beer in hand, talking to his wife Amy about something that made her laugh. Grant emerged from the hallway, his face brightening when he saw Lena. He was 41, with the thick build of someone who'd played football in high school and never quite lost the muscle, now softening at the edges. He kissed Lena's cheek, his hand finding the small of her back in that familiar gesture of possession and comfort. "You made it," he said. "Traffic was fine," Lena replied, already scanning the room, cataloging who was there and where Maisie had gone. She spotted her daughter by the shoe rack, carefully lining up her Mary Janes next to the other children's sneakers and boots. Even there, Maisie created order. Carolyn moved through the kitchen with the efficiency of someone conducting an orchestra, directing Rebecca to check the rolls, asking Amy to set out the butter dishes, orchestrating the meal with the same firm control she applied to every family gathering. Lena had learned not to offer help in Carolyn's kitchen. Her assistance was rarely wanted and never acknowledged. Instead, Lena positioned herself near the counter, close enough to be available, but far enough not to intrude. She watched Carolyn work, noting the way her mother-in-law's eyes would occasionally drift toward the living room where Maisie now sat quietly on the couch, reading a book she'd brought from home while the other children played. "Maisie's so quiet," Amy observed, coming to stand beside Lena. "My kids would be tearing through the house by now." "She likes to read," Lena said simply. "Still, you'd think she'd want to play with her cousins." Lena didn't answer. She'd stopped trying to explain Maisie's personality to people who wouldn't understand. Her daughter had learned early that being small and still made her less of a target. It was a survival skill Lena recognized because she developed the same one growing up with a father who'd vanish for weeks when bills came due, leaving her mother to hold everything together with duct tape and lies. The call to dinner came at 3 o'clock, precisely on schedule. Carolyn had set the dining room table with her good china, the pattern with tiny roses that had belonged to her mother. Place cards directed everyone to their assigned seats, a detail that always struck Lena as excessive for a family meal, but that Carolyn insisted maintained proper order. Lena found her card between Grant and Rebecca. Maisie's was at the far end of the table between Daniel's boys. She watched her daughter take her seat, small hands folding in her lap, waiting patiently while the adults settled and the other children squirmed. Grant carved the turkey with ceremony while Carolyn supervised, offering instructions he didn't need. The meal proceeded in the predictable rhythm of family dinners. Bowls passed counterclockwise, gravy boats making their rounds, Rebecca's boys arguing over who got more stuffing until Todd told them to knock it off. Lena ate mechanically, her attention divided between her plate and Maisie, who was using her fork to carefully separate her food into sections that didn't touch. One of Daniel's boys said something Lena couldn't hear, and Maisie's shoulders tensed almost imperceptibly before she nodded and reached for her water glass. The conversation flowed around her, talk of work and weather and the new highway construction that would bypass Red Willow entirely. Grant's hand found Lena's knee under the table, a brief squeeze that meant everything was fine. "Relax, you always worry too much." But Lena had learned to trust her worry. It came halfway through the meal, during a lull when people were focusing more on eating than talking. Carolyn set down her fork with a soft clink against her plate, the sound somehow commanding attention despite its quietness. "We should discuss Christmas plans," she said, her voice carrying that pleasant, matter-of-fact tone she used when she'd already made a decision and was simply informing everyone else. Rebecca looked up. "Are we doing it here again?" "Of course here." Carolyn dabbed at her mouth with her napkin. "But I've been thinking we should keep it more intimate this year. Immediate family only." Lena felt something cold settle in her stomach. She set down her own fork carefully, her hand steady despite the sudden acceleration of her heartbeat. "What do you mean by immediate?" Amy asked. Carolyn's gaze swept the table, touching on each of her grandchildren, Rebecca's boys, Daniel's boys, then skipped over Maisie entirely, as if the child sitting at the end of the table had suddenly become invisible. "Real family," Carolyn said and smiled. "You know what I mean. Blood relatives. The people who actually belong to the Finch line." The table went quiet. Lena heard the scrape of a fork against china, the creak of someone shifting in their chair. She felt Grant's hand tense on her knee, felt Rebecca glance in her direction, felt the weight of everyone suddenly understanding what Carolyn meant, but not knowing whether to acknowledge it. Maisie's voice came soft from the end of the table. "Mom." Lena's throat had gone tight, but she turned to look at her daughter. Maisie's face showed nothing. No confusion, no hurt, just a blank, careful mask that meant she understood exactly what was happening and was waiting to see what Lena would do about it. That mask broke something in Lena's chest. "I love Maisie," Carolyn continued, as if the child couldn't hear every word. "We all do. She's a sweet girl, but she isn't technically ours, is she? And when it comes to traditions, to family traditions that go back generations, well, that distinction matters." Lena stood. The movement was so sudden that her chair scraped loudly against the hardwood, and every head turned toward her. She didn't plan what to say. The words simply came, pushed out by a pressure that had been building for 8 years. "She is my child," Lena said. Her voice didn't shake. It came out level and clear, cutting through the awkward silence like a blade. "She is my daughter, and that's the only definition that matters in any conversation about family." Carolyn's eyebrows rose. "Lena, there's no need to be dramatic." "I'm not being dramatic. I'm being clear." Lena's hands rested on the table, her weight forward, her eyes locked on her mother-in-law. "Maisie is my daughter. She belongs at this table and every other table. If you can't understand that, then we have nothing else to discuss." "You're being too sensitive," Carolyn said, her tone shifting to that particular brand of dismissiveness that suggested Lena was overreacting to something trivial. "I'm simply trying to maintain our family traditions. Surely you can understand the importance of—" "I understand perfectly," Lena interrupted. She turned to Maisie. "Get your coat, sweetheart. We're leaving." Grant's hand caught her wrist. "Lena, wait. Mom didn't mean—" "Yes, she did." Lena pulled her wrist free, gently but firmly. "She meant exactly what she said." She walked to the end of the table, where Maisie sat frozen, her small hand still folded in her lap, her face showing nothing. Lena held out her hand. Maisie took it without hesitation, sliding off her chair with the same careful precision she applied to everything. The walk to the door felt endless. Lena could feel everyone watching, could imagine the glances being exchanged, could almost hear the conversation that would happen the moment she and Maisie left. But she kept her pace steady, kept her daughter's hand in hers, and didn't look back. At the shoe rack, Maisie sat down to put on her Mary Janes. Her fingers trembled slightly as she worked the buckles, and Lena knelt beside her. "Let me help," Lena said softly. "I can do it," Maisie whispered. "I know you can, but let me anyway." She fastened the buckles while Maisie sat very still, her breathing careful and controlled in the way children breathe when they're trying very hard not to cry. When both shoes were secure, Lena helped her into her coat and zipped it up, then grabbed her own coat from the hook. Grant appeared behind them. "Lena, please. You're making this into a bigger thing than it needs to be." Lena turned to face him. "Your mother just told our daughter she doesn't belong at Christmas because she's adopted. How exactly would you like me to make that smaller?" "She didn't mean it like that." "She meant it exactly like that." Lena's voice stayed quiet, but something in it made Grant step back. "And you standing here making excuses for her means you heard what she said and you're choosing to defend it." "I'm not defending it. I'm asking you to calm down so we can talk about this reasonably." "I am completely calm," Lena said. "And we're leaving." She opened the door, ushering Maisie out into the cold November afternoon. The wind had picked up, carrying the smell of distant snow. Behind her, she heard Carolyn's voice saying something about overreactions, heard Grant respond in placating tones, heard the murmur of the family resuming their meal as if nothing had happened. Lena opened the car door for Maisie, waited until her daughter was buckled in, then walked around to the driver's side. Her hands shook slightly as she put the key in the ignition, but she kept her face neutral until she'd backed out of the driveway and pointed the car toward home. They drove for 10 minutes in silence, the farmland rolling past in shades of brown and gray, the sky threatening weather. Lena kept her eyes on the road, her hands at 10 and 2, her breathing measured. Beside her, Maisie stared out the window at nothing in particular. Then, in a voice so small Lena almost missed it, "Am I temporary?" Lena's foot hit the brake without conscious thought. The car slowed, pulled onto the shoulder, came to a stop on the gravel. She put it in park and turned to face her daughter. Maisie wasn't crying. She rarely cried. Her face showed that same careful blankness, but her hands were twisted together in her lap, her knuckles white. "Look at me," Lena said gently. Maisie turned her head, brown eyes meeting Lena's. "You are permanent," Lena said. Each word was deliberate, heavy with certainty. You are mine forever. You are my daughter, and nothing and no one can change that. Do you understand me? But Grandma said, Grandma is wrong. Lena reached over and took one of Maisie's hands in both of hers. And here's what else you need to know. Anyone who questions whether you belong, anyone who suggests you're less than family, anyone who makes you feel like you're temporary, they're the ones who are optional. Not you. Never you. Maisie's eyes glistened, but still no tears fell. Are we going to see them at Christmas? No, Lena said. We're not. Because of me? Because of me. Lena squeezed her daughter's hand. Because I choose you. Every time. Over anyone. They sat there on the shoulder for another minute, the engine running, the heater blowing warm air that smelled faintly of dust. Then Maisie nodded once, a small decisive movement, and Lena put the car back in drive. The rest of the trip home passed in silence, but it was a different kind of silence now. Lena could feel something settling in her chest, something hard and clear and absolute. By the time they pulled up to their small house near the grain elevators, a 2-bedroom rental with vinyl siding and a yard that needed mowing, she knew exactly what she was going to do. After Maisie went to bed that night, Lena opened her laptop at the kitchen table. Grant was still at his mother's house, probably trying to smooth things over, probably telling Carolyn that Lena would calm down and apologize. Let him think that. It would make what came next easier. She opened a spreadsheet she'd started years ago, one she'd titled Household Budget, but that contained much more than that. Column after column detailed every bill they paid, every account they managed, every service they provided. And there, highlighted in yellow, were all the expenses they'd quietly taken on for Carolyn. The phone bill that included Carolyn's line, $45 per month. The streaming services they'd set up when Carolyn wanted to watch her shows, $38 per month. The grocery delivery app Lena had configured during Carolyn's knee surgery 2 years ago, which Carolyn still used weekly, $15 per month plus groceries. The car insurance where Carolyn was listed on their family plan for a discount, $87 per month. The automatic payment for Carolyn's electric bill that Grant had set up 3 years ago when his mother complained about late fees, $120 to $180 per month. The lawn service they'd hired and paid for because Carolyn couldn't manage the yard anymore, $200 per month, April through October. Lena added it up. Over a year, they were subsidizing Carolyn's life to the tune of nearly $7,000. None of it had ever been discussed as an arrangement. It had accumulated gradually, one favor at a time, one emergency at a time, one just until I get back on my feet at a time. Carolyn owned her house outright. She had retirement income. She wasn't destitute. She'd simply learned that if she expressed a need, Grant would meet it, and Lena would make it happen efficiently and without complaint. Lena had mistaken supporting family for being obligated to family. Carolyn had mistaken that support for proof that she could say anything, do anything, exclude anyone, and there would be no consequences. Lena opened a new document and began making a list. She worked until Grant came home near midnight. He found her at the kitchen table, the laptop still glowing in front of her, spreadsheets and account information scattered across multiple windows. "You're still up," he said, his voice careful. "I'm still up." He sat down across from her, his hands flat on the table. "My mom feels terrible. She didn't mean to upset Maisie." Lena closed the laptop. Yes, she did. She was just trying to. "Grant." Lena looked at him directly, waiting until he met her eyes. "Don't lie to me, and don't lie to yourself. Your mother said exactly what she meant to say. She wanted to exclude our daughter from Christmas because Maisie is adopted. There's no other interpretation. She said she loves Maisie. And then she said Maisie isn't really family." Lena's voice stayed level. "You can love someone and still exclude them. You can call someone sweet and still deny them a place at the table. Your mother did both." Grant ran his hand through his hair, a gesture Lena recognized as frustration and helplessness. So what do you want me to do? Cut off my own mother? I want you to do whatever you need to do, Lena said. Your relationship with your mother is yours to manage. But my relationship with her is mine to manage. And I'm done. Grant stared at her. Done how? Done supporting her. Done subsidizing her life. Done pretending that her behavior doesn't have consequences. Lena, I'm not going to argue about this, Lena said quietly. I'm telling you what's going to happen. I'm removing your mother from every account, every service, every bill we've been covering. If she wants those things, she can pay for them herself. That's vindictive. That's appropriate. Lena opened a laptop again, turning it so Grant could see the spreadsheet. Look at this. Really look at it. We've been paying for your mother's comfort while she treats our daughter as less than her grandchildren. That stops now. Grant looked at the numbers, his expression shifting from defensiveness to something like surprise. I didn't realize it was this much. I know you didn't. You just said yes every time she asked because she's your mother and you love her. I made it happen because I thought that's what family did. Lena closed the laptop again. But Maisie is family, and your mother made it clear she disagrees. So she doesn't get to benefit from the family she doesn't believe we are. You're being cold. I'm being a mother, Lena corrected. Your mother hurt our child. She hurt my daughter, and I don't negotiate after that. I act. Grant stood up, paced to the window, came back. She'll apologize. Give her time. I don't want her apology, Lena said. I want her to understand that actions have consequences, that you can't exclude a child from your family and still expect to be included in theirs. So you're doing the same thing she did. You're excluding her. No. Lena stood now, too, facing him across the kitchen table. I'm responding to her choice. She chose to draw a line around who's real family and who isn't. I'm simply standing on the side of that line she put my daughter on. If your mother doesn't like being on the outside, she should think about why she put us there. They stood in silence for a long moment. Outside, the wind rattled the windows, and somewhere in the distance a dog barked. Finally, Grant said, What if she needs help? What if something happens? Then she can ask you, Lena said, and you can decide what to do. But I'm done being her safety net while she treats my daughter as disposable. Grant nodded slowly, something defeated in the gesture. You're really not going to back down on this. Would you? Lena asked. If it was your daughter someone had hurt. He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Lena started the next morning. She didn't announce it, didn't send messages explaining her decision. She simply opened each account and made the necessary changes. The phone plan first. She logged into their carrier's website and removed Carolyn's line. The system asked if she was sure. She clicked yes without hesitation. Carolyn's phone would work until the end of the billing cycle, then simply stop. No warning, no dramatic confrontation. Just silence where service used to be. Next came the streaming accounts. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. She removed Carolyn from the family sharing on each one. Changed the passwords to be certain. The grocery delivery app took longer. Lena had to call customer service, explain that she wanted to remove an authorized user, wait while they processed the request. The representative asked if there was a problem with the service. Lena said no, just removing someone who no longer needed access. Simple and clean. The automatic payment on Carolyn's electric bill required logging into their bank. Grant's login, technically, but Lena had always managed their finances. She found the recurring payment and deleted it. The confirmation screen asked if she was certain this was what she wanted to do. She clicked confirm. The car insurance took a phone call. Lena explained to the agent that they needed to remove a family member from their plan. The agent asked why. Lena said simply that the family member would be managing their own insurance from now on. The agent processed it without further questions. The lawn service required one more phone call. Lena explained that they'd no longer be paying for Mrs. Finch's property. The company asked if they should bill Mrs. Finch directly. Lena provided Carolyn's contact information and said yes. By noon it was done. Every connection severed. Every automatic payment canceled. Every shared service dissolved. Carolyn would notice eventually. The phone would be first. That would stop working within days. Then the streaming services when she tried to watch something. Then the lawn service would call for payment. Then the electric company would send a bill. But none of it would be dramatic. None of it would be announced. It would just be absence. The quiet removal of support that had always been freely given. Lena closed her laptop and went to make lunch. Maisie sat at the kitchen table doing a word search puzzle. Her concentration absolute. Lena watched her daughter for a moment. The careful way she circled each word, the methodical way she searched each row and column, and felt that hard certainty settled deeper in her chest. She'd made the right choice. The only choice. Grant noticed 3 days later when Carolyn called him at work. Lena was making dinner when he came through the door, his phone still in his hand, his expression somewhere between confusion and anger. "Did you cancel Mom's phone?" he asked. Lena stirred the pasta sauce. "Yes." "When?" "Monday." "Monday." Grant set his phone on the counter. "You didn't mention it." "You didn't ask." Lena added oregano to the sauce, tasted it, added a bit more. "I told you I was removing her from our accounts. That's what I did." "She called me from a neighbor's phone. She's upset." "I imagine she is." Lena kept her tone neutral, factual. Her phone stopped working, and she doesn't understand why. "Lena." Grant moved closer, lowering his voice even though Maisie was upstairs doing homework. "This is too much. Actually, it's exactly right. She's my mother." "And that's your relationship." Lena repeated the words she'd said before. "You can have whatever relationship you want with her. Call her, visit her, help her with her phone. That's between you and her." "But you won't." "I won't," Lena confirmed. "Your mother hurt our daughter. She excluded Maisie from family Christmas. She said Maisie isn't real family. Those were her choices. This is mine." Grant picked up his phone, put it down again. "What else did you cancel?" Lena listed them matter-of-factly. The streaming services, the grocery delivery, the electric bill payment, the lawn service, the insurance. Grant's expression shifted with each item, moving from angry to shocked to something that might have been embarrassed. "I didn't know we were paying for all of that," he said finally. "I know. She's going to struggle. Maybe." Lena turned off the burner under the sauce. "Or maybe she'll learn to manage her own affairs. She has income. She has resources. She'll figure it out." "You're punishing her." "No." Lena turned to face him fully. "I'm responding to her behavior. She removed my daughter from her family. I removed her from mine. That's not punishment. That's consequence." Grant's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, didn't answer. It buzzed again. "She keeps calling." "Then answer and explain that we're no longer paying her bills." Lena pulled plates from the cabinet. "Or don't answer. That's your choice to make." He looked at her for a long moment, something in his expression Lena couldn't quite read. Then he picked up the phone and went outside. Through the window, Lena watched him pace the small backyard, phone pressed to his ear, his free hand gesturing as he spoke. She couldn't hear the words, but she could imagine them. Explanations, apologies on her behalf, promises to work it out. Let him promise. Lena wasn't negotiating. She called Maisie down for dinner, and they ate together at the kitchen table. Just the two of them while Grant stayed outside. Maisie asked if Daddy was okay. Lena said he was talking to Grandma. Maisie nodded and didn't ask anything else, just returned her attention to her spaghetti, carefully twirling it onto her fork. When Grant came back inside, his face was tight. "She wants to talk to you." "I have nothing to say to her." "She wants to apologize." "I don't want her apology." Lena. Grant. She set down her fork. Your mother can apologize to Maisie if she wants. But she hurt my daughter, not me. I'm not the one who needs an apology. I'm just the one setting boundaries about what happens next. Which is nothing. Which is nothing, Lena confirmed. Your mother made her position clear. I'm respecting it by removing ourselves from her life. Grant sat down heavily in his chair. This isn't how family works. You're right, Lena said. It isn't. Family doesn't exclude children based on adoption status. Family doesn't draw lines around who's real and who isn't. Your mother forgot that. I'm just helping her remember. The silence stretched between them. Maisie ate her spaghetti quietly, her eyes down, absorbing everything without appearing to. Finally Grant said, what if she changes her mind? What if she really apologizes and means it? Then that's between her and Maisie, Lena said. But my decision stands regardless. I'm done subsidizing her life. Done making things easy for her. Done being available. That's not conditional on an apology. That's permanent. Grant didn't argue further. He ate his dinner in silence, while Lena and Maisie talked about Maisie's math homework and the book she was reading for English class. Normal conversation. Normal evening. Normal life, except for the absence of Carolyn Finch hovering at the edges of their plans and decisions. 2 weeks passed. Thanksgiving turned into December, and with it came the subtle shift of a town preparing for Christmas. Lights went up on Main Street. The church scheduled its annual pageant. Red Willow moved through its rituals with the predictability of decades. And people talked. Red Willow was small, population barely pushing 2,000. Everyone knew everyone else's business, or thought they did. Lena had expected the whispers, had expected Carolyn to share her version of events with anyone who would listen. What Lena hadn't expected was how quickly the truth would emerge anyway. It started at church. Lena didn't attend regularly anymore, but she took Maisie to Sunday school because Maisie liked the stories and the crafts. They usually slipped in as services were starting and left as soon as Sunday school ended, avoiding the fellowship hour and the inevitable small talk. But the third Sunday in December, Maisie's teacher pulled Lena aside. Mrs. Anderson was 70 if she was a day, with white hair in a permanent wave and the kind of no-nonsense demeanor that came from teaching children for 50 years. I need to know if Maisie will be here for the Christmas pageant, Mrs. Anderson said without preamble. She will be, Lena confirmed. Good. Mrs. Anderson nodded firmly. I heard some talk that maybe not. I wanted to make sure I had the facts straight. Lena felt her shoulders tense. What kind of talk? The kind where Carolyn Finch has been telling people her family is excluding her from Christmas. Mrs. Anderson's eyes were sharp behind her glasses. The kind where she conveniently leaves out why. I see. I saw Maisie at every school event last year, Mrs. Anderson continued. Saw you at pickup every single day. Saw you volunteering in the classroom, chaperoning the field trips. Never saw Carolyn once. Lena didn't know what to say to that. Actions speak louder than words, Mrs. Anderson said. And people remember actions. You might want to keep that in mind. She patted Lena's arm and walked back to her classroom, leaving Lena standing in the hallway trying to process what had just happened. The shift continued at the grocery store. Lena ran into Rebecca, Grant's sister, in the produce section. Rebecca saw her, hesitated, then deliberately turned her cart in Lena's direction instead of away. I need to talk to you, Rebecca said quietly. Lena waited. Mom called me, told me you canceled all her services and won't return her calls. Rebecca selected an apple from the display with elaborate care. She's pretty upset. I know she is. She said you're punishing her for speaking her mind at Thanksgiving. She's right. I am responding to what she said. Lena chose her words carefully. Your mother made it clear that Maisie isn't real family. I'm simply treating her the way she treats people who aren't real family. Rebecca set the apple in her cart. That's not what she meant. Rebecca. Lena turned to face Grant's sister directly. Your mother said only blood relatives should be at Christmas. Maisie is adopted. What other meaning could there possibly be? Rebecca's face flushed. She was just. She didn't mean to hurt Maisie's feelings. Whether she meant to doesn't change that she did. Lena kept her voice low, aware they were in public. And it doesn't change that she said it in front of my daughter. Maisie heard every word. Kids bounce back. No, Lena said flatly. They don't. They remember. They internalize. They spend their whole lives wondering if they really belong. I won't put my daughter through that. Not for your mother. Not for anyone. Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Then, I didn't think about it that way. Most people don't. For what it's worth. Rebecca hesitated. I think Mom was wrong. What she said. How she said it. Thank you for saying that. But she's still our mother. And she's alone now. She made herself alone, Lena said. She had a family. She chose to exclude part of it. The rest of us simply took her at her word. Rebecca nodded slowly, something like understanding crossing her face. You're really not going to forgive her, are you? I don't need to forgive her, Lena said. I just need to protect my daughter. Those aren't the same thing. They parted with awkward goodbyes, and Lena finished her shopping aware that the conversation would make its way back to Carolyn. But she didn't regret it. Every word had been true. The real shift came in Grant. Lena watched it happen gradually over those 2 weeks. His mother called him repeatedly. She left voicemails that started angry and became plaintive. She sent texts asking why they were doing this to her. She showed up at his work once, demanding to know when Lena would stop being unreasonable. Each time, Grant came home a little more worn down, a little more defensive, until one evening when he didn't come home defensive at all. Lena was helping Maisie with her homework when he walked in. He set his keys on the counter with a heavy clink, pulled a beer from the refrigerator, and sat down across from them at the table. Mom showed up at work again, he said. Lena looked up from Maisie's math worksheet. What did she want? For me to talk to you. For me to make you see reason. For me to fix this. Grant took a long drink of beer. I told her I couldn't. Lena went still. What did you say exactly? I said she was wrong at Thanksgiving. That what she said about Maisie was hurtful and inappropriate. That I understood why you responded the way you did. Grant set the beer down carefully. She told me I was choosing my wife over my mother. And you said... I said I was choosing my daughter. Grant's voice was quiet but firm. I said Maisie is my daughter, our daughter, and nothing else matters compared to that. Maisie's head came up from her homework, her eyes wide. Mom started crying, Grant continued. Said I was turning against her. Said you'd poison me against her. Said she couldn't believe I would abandon her like this. Did you? Lena asked. Abandon her? I told her I'd help her get her phone, turn back on if she needed it. Told her I'd help her figure out her bills. But I also told her I wouldn't pressure you to do anything. That she hurt our child, and she needed to understand that actions have consequences. Grant looked at Maisie, then back at Lena. She asked what she needed to do to fix it. I told her I didn't know if she could. Lena felt something loosen in her chest. Some tension she'd been carrying for 2 weeks without realizing it. You stood up to her. I should have done it at Thanksgiving, Grant said. At the table. The moment she said it. I should have shut it down right there instead of letting her finish. Yes, Lena agreed. You should have. I'm sorry I didn't. That's not an apology you owe me, Lena said. She looked at Maisie. It's an apology you owe her. Grant turned to his daughter. Maisie, I'm sorry. Your grandma said something horrible, and I didn't defend you the way I should have. That was wrong of me. You deserve better. Maisie studied him for a long moment, her expression serious. Then she nodded. Okay. Okay, Grant echoed. They returned to homework, but the atmosphere had shifted. Something had been settled that Lena hadn't even realized was unsettled. Grant had made his choice, and it was the right one. The confrontation Lena had been expecting finally came 3 weeks after Thanksgiving. She was pulling into the driveway after picking up Maisie from school when she saw Carolyn's car parked on the street. Carolyn herself sat on the front porch steps, waiting. Lena's first instinct was to back out of the driveway and leave, but Maisie had already seen her grandmother. "Why is Grandma here?" "I don't know, sweetheart." Lena pulled into the driveway and turned off the engine. "Stay in the car for a minute." "Okay." Lena got out and approached the porch. Carolyn stood as she approached, her posture stiff, her expression tight. She'd lost weight, Lena noticed. Her face looked thinner, older somehow. "We need to talk," Carolyn said. "There's nothing to talk about." "Lena, please." Carolyn's voice held a pleading note Lena had never heard before. "You're punishing me. You've turned my son against me. You've isolated me from my family. This has to stop." "I haven't done anything to you," Lena said. "I simply stopped doing things for you. You canceled my phone, my streaming services. You stopped paying my electric bill." "Yes, I did." Lena crossed her arms. "We were subsidizing your life, Carolyn. Paying your bills, managing your accounts, taking care of things you should have been handling yourself. And while we were doing all of that, you decided my daughter wasn't real family. So I decided you didn't need our help anymore." "That's not what I meant." "It's exactly what you meant." Lena cut her off. "You said only blood relatives at Christmas. You said Maisie isn't technically yours. You said traditions matter and she doesn't fit the tradition. Those were your exact words." Carolyn's face flushed. "I was trying to maintain family customs by excluding a child." Lena's voice stayed level, factual. "By telling an 8-year-old girl she doesn't belong. By making it clear that her adoption means she's less than your biological grandchildren." "I didn't say that." "You absolutely said that." Lena stepped closer. "And my daughter heard you. She sat at the end of that table and heard her grandmother say she wasn't real family. Do you have any idea what that did to her?" Carolyn looked away. "I didn't mean to hurt her feelings." "But you did, and whether you meant to doesn't change the result." Lena's hands were steady at her sides, her posture relaxed despite the anger simmering beneath her words. "You hurt my child. You excluded her. You made her feel temporary and disposable. And you did it while we were paying your bills and making your life easier. So you decided to erase me." "No," Lena corrected. "I decided to stop supporting someone who doesn't value my family. There's a difference." Carolyn's eyes glistened. "I'm alone now. Grant won't talk to me. The girls won't return my calls. Daniel thinks I'm being punished unfairly. You've poisoned everyone against me. I haven't said a word to anyone except Grant." Lena kept her voice steady. "If people aren't talking to you, maybe you should ask yourself why. Maybe you should consider what you said and did and how it looked to people who weren't sitting at that table." "I apologized to Grant." "Did you apologize to Maisie?" Carolyn hesitated. "I wanted to, but you won't let me see her." "That's not true. You're standing in front of our house right now. Nothing is stopping you from apologizing except your own pride." They stood in silence for a moment. From the car, Maisie watched through the window, her face carefully blank. Finally Carolyn said, "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," Lena said. "I don't want anything from you. I want you to leave us alone." "You can't just cut me off from my grandchildren." "I can," Lena said. "And I did. You made it clear Maisie isn't your grandchild. I'm simply respecting that distinction." "That's vindictive." "That's protective." Lena's voice hardened slightly. "You hurt my daughter. You excluded her from your family. I'm protecting her from being hurt again. That's not vindictive. That's parenting." "For how long?" For as long as it takes, Lena said. For as long as I decide Maisie needs protection. Maybe forever. I haven't decided yet. Carolyn's face crumpled slightly. You're really not going to forgive me. I don't need to forgive you, Lena said. Forgiveness is something you ask of someone you've wronged. You wronged my daughter, not me. If you want forgiveness, apologize to her. But even if she forgives you, that doesn't mean I have to trust you with her again. So there's nothing I can do. There's nothing you can do to make me go back to the way things were, Lena agreed. You showed me who you are, Carolyn. You showed me that your idea of family has conditions and exclusions. I'm simply responding to that information. Carolyn wiped at her eyes. I'm alone. Yes, Lena said quietly. You are. And that's the consequence of your choices. You're heartless. I'm a mother, Lena corrected. And if being a good mother to my daughter means being heartless to you, then I'll accept that description. Carolyn stared at her for a long moment, something like shock crossing her face. Then she turned and walked to her car without another word. Lena watched her drive away, then returned to her own car where Maisie waited. What did Grandma want? Maisie asked as Lena got in. To apologize, Lena said. Did she? To me, yes. To you, no. Maisie nodded slowly. Are we going to see her at Christmas? No, sweetheart. We're not. Good, Maisie said quietly. I don't want to see her. Lena reached back and squeezed her daughter's hand. Then we won't. The weeks that followed took on a rhythm of their own. December pushed forward with its cold certainty, and Lena found herself moving through the days with a clarity she hadn't felt in years. There was freedom in having made a decision and sticking to it. No more second-guessing. No more trying to smooth things over. No more pretending that Carolyn's behavior was acceptable if they just found the right way to respond to it. Maisie seemed lighter too. She still moved with her characteristic carefulness, still arranged her things with precision, still approached the world as something that needed to be managed. But some of the tension had left her shoulders. Some of the watchfulness had faded from her eyes. They established new patterns. Saturday mornings became pancake time. Just Lena and Maisie in the kitchen with music playing and flour dusting the counters. Lena taught her daughter how to crack eggs with one hand, how to test the griddle's heat with drops of water, how to flip pancakes at just the right moment. Mom, Maisie said one Saturday, watching a pancake brown on the griddle. Are you sad we're not seeing Grandma? Lena considered the question carefully. No, sweetheart, I'm not sad. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Lena flipped the pancake. I'm sad that she hurt you. I'm sad that she thinks family has conditions. But I'm not sad about protecting you from that. Maisie nodded, processing this. Rebecca called me last week. Lena went still. She did. Yeah. She said she missed me. Asked if we could come over to play with the boys sometime. What did you tell her? I said, I'd have to ask you. Maisie paused. Can I? Lena slid the pancake onto a plate. Do you want to? I think so. Rebecca was always nice to me. And the boys are fun. Then yes, Lena said. We can arrange that. Your Aunt Rebecca is separate from your grandmother. You can have a relationship with her if you want one. What if Grandma shows up? Then we leave, Lena said simply. But I don't think Rebecca would ambush you like that. If she invites you over, it's because she wants to see you, not because she's trying to force a reconciliation. They made plans for the following weekend. Rebecca lived in town, in a ranch house not unlike Carolyn's but smaller, with a yard full of plastic toys and a trampoline that had seen better days. When Lena pulled up with Maisie, Rebecca came out onto the porch, her smile cautious but genuine. Thanks for coming, she said as Maisie ran toward the backyard where her cousins were already jumping on the trampoline. Thanks for inviting her, Lena replied. They stood in awkward silence for a moment. Then Rebecca said, I want you to know I don't agree with what Mom did. What she said. I should have said something at the time. Yes, you should have. I know. Rebecca wrapped her arms around herself despite her coat. I keep thinking about it, about Maisie's face when Mom was talking. She just sat there so quiet, and I didn't do anything. No one did, Lena said, except me. You walked out. I removed my daughter from a situation where she was being hurt. Lena kept her tone matter of fact. That's not dramatic. That's just parenting. Rebecca nodded slowly. Mom's been calling me. A lot. She says you've isolated her. Cut her off from everyone. I cut her off from me and Maisie, Lena corrected. Everyone else made their own choices about their relationships with her. Daniel still talks to her. So does Todd sometimes. Good. She should have people in her life who care about her. But not you. Not me, Lena confirmed. She hurt my child. I don't owe her access to hurt her again. Rebecca was quiet for a moment, watching the kids jump on the trampoline. You know the whole town is talking about this, right? I assumed they would be. Most people think you're overreacting, making too big a deal out of one comment. I'm sure they do. Lena felt nothing at this information. No anger, no defensiveness, just a kind of distant acknowledgement. People who haven't adopted children usually don't understand what that comment means. But some people... Rebecca hesitated. Some people are saying Mom had it coming, that she's always been hard on people, that she's made comments before about who belongs and who doesn't. Lena looked at her sharply. Has she? Amy told me, Daniel's wife. She said Mom made comments when they got married, about Amy's family not being the right kind of people, about how their kids would have to overcome their mother's background. Rebecca's voice was quiet. Todd said she made comments about me marrying someone from town instead of going to college, like I'd lowered myself. I didn't know that. We didn't talk about it. Rebecca shrugged. We just dealt with it. That's what you do with family, right? You overlook things. Until you can't anymore, Lena said. Until you can't anymore, Rebecca agreed. They stood together watching the children play, this new understanding settling between them. Then Rebecca said, I'm glad Maisie has you as her mom. I'm glad she has someone who won't overlook things. Thank you for saying that. And Lena. Rebecca turned to face her. If Mom shows up here while you're visiting, I'll ask her to leave. I promise. It was a small thing, that promise, but it meant everything. The community's response continued to shift in ways Lena tracked without directly engaging. Mrs. Anderson at church stopped her after Sunday school to mention that Carolyn had been complaining about the lack of family support. Mrs. Anderson had simply asked why Carolyn thought people owed her support when she'd excluded a child from Christmas. Carolyn apparently had no answer. At the grocery store, Lena overheard two women discussing it in the next aisle over. One was defending Carolyn. Family is complicated. People say things they don't mean. Lena was being too harsh. The other woman asked whether she'd want someone talking that way about her grandchild. The first woman went quiet. Even at Maisie's school, the shift was noticeable. Maisie's teacher pulled Lena aside during pickup to say that several parents had asked about the situation. The teacher had simply said that Maisie was loved and cared for, and that was all anyone needed to know. But she wanted Lena to be aware that people were watching and talking. Let them, Lena said. As long as Maisie is okay, I don't care what people say. She seems okay, the teacher observed. Actually, she seems happier lately. More relaxed. She is, Lena said. We both are. At home, Grant was navigating his own relationship with the situation. His mother called him less frequently now, but when she did, the conversations were difficult. He'd come home drained, frustrated, sometimes angry. She keeps saying you're being unreasonable, he told Lena one evening after dinner, that you're punishing her too harshly, that she apologized and you won't accept it. She apologized to you, Lena pointed out. Not to Maisie. I told her that. She says you won't let her talk to Maisie. That's not true. She knows where we live. She could write a letter. She could ask to meet somewhere neutral. She could actually make an effort. Lena loaded the dishwasher with steady hands. But she wants me to bring Maisie to her, to make it easy. And I won't do that. Because easy is what enabled this in the first place. Lena closed the dishwasher. We made everything easy for your mother. Paid her bills, managed her life, showed up when she called. And she took that ease for granted. She thought she could say anything, do anything, and we'd still be there smoothing it over. So you're teaching her a lesson. I'm establishing consequences, Lena corrected. There's a difference. A lesson implies this is temporary, that she'll learn and will go back to how things were. Consequences are permanent. They change the relationship forever. Grant leaned against the counter. Do you ever wonder if you're being too hard on her? No, Lena said without hesitation. Do you? He thought about it. Sometimes. And then I remember Maisie asking if she was temporary, and I stopped wondering. That became Grant's litmus test, Lena noticed. Whenever he wavered, whenever his mother's calls got to him, he'd spend time with Maisie. He'd watch her do homework or play outside or read her books. And then he'd remember why they'd drawn this line, and his resolve would firm up again. The bills started coming for Carolyn around mid-December. Lena only knew because Grant told her. The phone company wanted payment for the new line Carolyn had to set up. The streaming services wanted their subscriptions renewed. The lawn service wanted their fall cleanup fee. The electric company sent a past due notice. She called me crying, Grant said. Said she can't afford all of this. She can afford it, Lena replied. She just doesn't want to. She's used to us covering it. What if she really can't? Then she'll have to make choices. Cancel services she doesn't need. Cut back on expenses. Budget properly. Lena folded laundry with practiced efficiency. She has retirement income. She owns her house outright. She's not destitute. She's just not being subsidized anymore. It feels cruel. It would be cruel if we'd done this without reason, Lena said. We did it in direct response to her excluding our daughter. That's not cruelty. That's cause and effect. Grant nodded slowly, but Lena could see the guilt eating at him. He loved his mother. He wanted to help her. But he also understood, finally, that helping her meant enabling behavior that hurt Maisie. The breaking point for Grant came 2 weeks before Christmas. Carolyn showed up at his work again, this time with a stack of bills and tears streaming down her face. She cornered him in the parking lot, demanding to know why he was letting his wife destroy their family. Grant called Lena from his car afterward, his voice tight with suppressed emotion. What did you tell her? Lena asked. I told her she destroyed it herself when she excluded Maisie. Grant's voice shook slightly. I told her that actions have consequences, that she can't hurt my daughter and expect no repercussions. How did she respond? She said, Maisie isn't really my daughter. She said, I was choosing an adoption over my real family. There was a pause. Lena, I told my mother to leave and not come back until she could apologize to Maisie and mean it. Lena sat down slowly on the couch. You did. I did. I'm done making excuses for her. I'm done trying to bridge this. She was wrong. What she said at Thanksgiving was wrong. What she just said was worse. And I'm done. Grant. You were right, he said. From the beginning. You were right to walk out. Right to cut her off. Right to protect Maisie. I should have backed you up immediately. I should have stood up to her at that table instead of letting you do it alone. You're standing up to her now. It's not enough, but it's something. He took a breath. I love you, and I love our daughter. Real daughter. Only daughter. That's the family I choose. After he hung up, Lena sat for a long time in the quiet house. Maisie was at school. The afternoon stretched ahead empty. And Lena felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Actual sadness. Not for Carolyn. Not for the lost relationship or the severed ties. But for Grant, who'd had to choose between his mother and his daughter and had chosen correctly but painfully. When Maisie came home from school, Lena made hot chocolate and they sat at the kitchen table together. Dad told Grandma not to come back until she apologizes to you, Lena said. Maisie looked up from her math homework. Really? Really? Will she? I don't know, sweetheart. That's her choice to make. Maisie considered this, swirling her hot chocolate thoughtfully. I don't think I want her to. You don't want an apology? I don't want to see her, Maisie clarified. Even if she says sorry, I don't want to have to wonder if she means it or if she's just saying it to make Dad happy. Lena's throat tightened. You don't have to see her if you don't want to. Ever. That's your choice. Okay. Maisie returned to her homework, the matter settled in her mind with the finality only children can manage. But Lena sat with the weight of it. Her 8-year-old daughter had decided she didn't need a grandmother who would exclude her, had made a choice about her own boundaries and relationships, had protected herself in the way children shouldn't have to, but sometimes must. Lena had modeled that for her, had shown her that walking away from people who hurt you is not only acceptable, but sometimes necessary. And Maisie had learned the lesson well. The phone calls from Carolyn slowed to a trickle after Grant's parking lot confrontation. 1 or 2 a week instead of daily. The voicemails shifted from angry to sad to resigned. Lena listened to none of them. Grant listened to all of them, his expression growing more tired each time. She keeps saying she's alone for Christmas, he told Lena one evening. Then she should call Daniel, or Rebecca, or her friends. She says no one wants to see her. Then maybe she should think about why that is. Lena didn't look up from the book she was reading. People who treat others well don't end up alone for the holidays. You really have no sympathy for her. I have sympathy for what it must feel like to realize your actions have consequences, Lena said. I have no sympathy for her attempt to avoid those consequences by playing the victim. Grant sat with that for a while. Then, what are we doing for Christmas? Whatever Maisie wants, Lena said. I was thinking we'd stay home. Just the 3 of us. Make our own traditions. She'd like that. I know she would. They planned Christmas together over the next week. Nothing elaborate, nothing expensive. Maisie wanted a bicycle, a real one, not a hand-me-down. But new bikes were expensive and money was tighter now without Carolyn's bills to worry about, but also without some of the family get-togethers that had provided free meals and entertainment. Lena found a bike at the thrift store. It was dusty and the chain needed work, but the frame was solid and the tires held air. She bought it for $15 and spent her evenings, after Maisie went to bed, cleaning and repairing it. She replaced the chain, oiled the gears, scrubbed the rust off the handlebars. Grant helped her repaint it purple, Maisie's favorite color, in the garage while Maisie was at school. It wouldn't be the bike in the store window, but it would be hers, made new by her parents' hands and care. They bought lights for the tree, made cookies from scratch, watched Christmas movies on the couch, wrapped in blankets. Simple things, quiet things, things that cost almost nothing but meant everything. And through it all, Carolyn's absence was noticeable but not devastating, like a tooth that had been pulled, tender at first, then just gone. Empty space where something painful used to be. Christmas morning came cold and bright, frost coating the windows in delicate patterns. Lena woke early, as she always did on holidays, and lay in bed listening to the house settle around her. Beside her, Grant slept heavily, one arm thrown across his face against the early light. She thought about other Christmases, the years before Maisie, when they'd spend the entire day at Carolyn's ranch house, opening presents according to a schedule, eating dinner at precisely 4 o'clock, following traditions that predated them and would presumably continue after them. The years after Maisie came, when Lena had tried so hard to make everything perfect, to prove that their little family fit into the larger one. to show that adoption meant nothing in the grand scheme of love and belonging. All that effort, all that careful navigation, all those years of trying to earn acceptance that should have been automatic. She didn't miss it. Maisie's footsteps in the hallway announced her waking before her quiet knock on the bedroom door. "Mom? Dad? It's Christmas." Grant stirred. Lena smiled. "Come in, sweetheart." Maisie appeared in the doorway in her pajamas, her hair sleep-mussed, her eyes bright with the kind of excitement only Christmas morning could produce. "Can we open presents now?" "Let me make coffee first," Grant said, sitting up. They gathered in the living room. 20 minutes later, Lena with her coffee, Grant with his, Maisie with hot chocolate. The tree stood in the corner, smaller than the ones at Carolyn's ranch house had been, but theirs, decorated with ornaments they'd made together and lights that blinked in cheerful chaos. Under the tree sat exactly 4 presents. 3 for Maisie, 1 for each of them from each other. Nothing excessive, nothing performative. "Can I open mine?" Maisie asked, practically vibrating with anticipation. "Go ahead," Lena said. Maisie tore into the first present, new books, carefully selected from the list she'd left on the refrigerator. She squealed with delight, hugging them to her chest. The second present was art supplies, markers and colored pencils, and a sketch pad. Then came the third present, the large one wrapped in purple paper. Maisie's hand slowed as she peeled back the wrapping, revealing the bicycle beneath. "It's purple," she whispered. "We painted it for you," Grant said. "Mom fixed it up." Maisie ran her hands over the handlebars, the seat, the newly painted frame. Her face showed something Lena couldn't quite name. Wonder, maybe, or the beginning of tears, or both. "Do you like it?" Lena asked. Maisie looked up, her eyes shining. "Can I write it?" "Right now." "It's freezing outside," Grant pointed out. "I don't care." "Please." They bundled her into her coat and boots and gloves, and she wheeled the bike out to the driveway. The morning was cold enough that their breath came out in clouds, but Maisie didn't seem to notice. She climbed onto the bike, still a little too big, but she'd grow into it, and pushed off. Lena watched her daughter ride in wobbly circles, finding her balance, gaining confidence. Grant stood beside her, his arm around her shoulders. "This is better," he said quietly. "Yes," Lena agreed. "This is better." They stayed outside until Maisie's hands were too cold to grip the handlebars, then went inside for pancakes and more hot chocolate. They watched Christmas movies in their pajamas. They called Rebecca so Maisie could tell her cousins about her bike. They did nothing and everything, and the day stretched out peaceful and unhurried. At 4 o'clock, the time dinner would have been served at Carolyn's. They ate Chinese takeout on the couch. Maisie thought this was the most hilarious thing in the world, eating lo mein in her pajamas while watching cartoons. "Next year, can we do this again?" she asked. "Absolutely," Lena said. Grant's phone rang twice that day. Both times, Carolyn's name appeared on the screen. Both times he let it go to voicemail. Lena said nothing, just reached over and squeezed his hand. The true consequence of Carolyn's choices became apparent in January. Lena heard about it through Rebecca, who called one evening sounding worried. "Mom sold her car," Rebecca said without preamble. Lena sat down slowly at the kitchen table. "What?" "She sold her car. Said she couldn't afford the insurance and maintenance. She's been borrowing Daniel's wife's car when she needs to go somewhere." "I see." "Lena, I think she's really struggling. Financially, I mean. The bills are piling up and she can't keep up with them. She has retirement income," Lena said carefully. "She owns her house. She should be fine if she budgets properly. But she doesn't know how. You and Grant always handled everything." Rebecca's voice was pleading. "Maybe you could just talk to her. Help her set up a budget or something." "No," Lena said. "Lena." "Rebecca, your mother made choices. She excluded my daughter from Christmas. She said Maisie isn't real family. Those were her choices. The financial difficulties, she's experiencing now are consequences of my response to those choices. I'm not going to rescue her from those consequences. So you're just going to let her suffer? I'm not letting her do anything, Lena said. She's an adult. She can make her own decisions about her finances. She can ask Daniel for help. She can ask you. She can hire a financial advisor. She has options. None of those options include me. Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. Then, you really aren't going to forgive her, are you? No, Lena said. I'm not. They ended the call shortly after, and Lena sat with the information. Carolyn had sold her car, was borrowing vehicles, was struggling with bills she'd never had to manage herself. Lena felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, no concern. Just a kind of distant acknowledgement that consequences, once set in motion, continued to unfold. Grant got the same news from Daniel a few days later. His brother called, angry, demanding to know what Grant was going to do about their mother's situation. Nothing, Grant said, and Lena heard the firmness in his voice even from across the room. I'm going to do nothing. She's our mother. And she hurt my daughter. So no, I'm not riding to her rescue. If you want to help her, help her. But don't call me expecting me to fix this. He hung up without saying goodbye, then sat down heavily at the table. Daniel thinks I'm being cruel, he said. Daniel didn't hear what your mother said to Maisie, Lena replied. He says, I'm choosing you over family. He's wrong. You're choosing Maisie. And Maisie is family. Grant nodded, but something in his expression was troubled. Do you think we're being too harsh? Lena considered the question seriously. I think we're being exactly as harsh as we need to be. Your mother crossed a line. She hurt our child. We responded by removing our support. That's appropriate. That's what should happen when someone hurts your child. But she's struggling now. Yes, she is. Lena reached across the table and took his hand. And that's difficult to watch. I understand that. But Grant, if we give in now, if we rescue her from these consequences, what message does that send? That she can hurt Maisie and face no real repercussions? That words don't matter? That exclusion is fine as long as she apologizes eventually. No, Grant said quietly. It sends the message that she can do whatever she wants and will always be there to clean it up. Exactly. They sat in silence for a while, hands linked across the table. Then Grant said, I love my mother, but I love my daughter more. I know, Lena said. That's why we're doing this. The final phone call came in February. Lena was folding laundry when her phone rang, Carolyn's name appearing on the screen for the first time since Thanksgiving. She stared at it for 3 rings, considering, then answered. Lena. Carolyn's voice sounded thin, exhausted. Please, I need to talk to you. I'm listening. A pause. I'm alone. I'm struggling. I can't keep up with everything. The bills, the house, all of it. I need help. Call Daniel, Lena said. Or Rebecca. They can help you. I tried. There. Another pause. They're all too busy. Or they don't want to deal with me. Or they think I brought this on myself. You did bring this on yourself. I know. The admission came out raw, almost a cry. I know I did. I know what I said was wrong. I know I hurt Maisie. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please, Lena. Please. Lena set down the towel she was folding. What do you want from me, Carolyn? I want things to go back to how they were. I want my family back. I want help. Her voice broke. I want to not be alone anymore. No, Lena said quietly. What? No, we're not going back to how things were. We're not resuming the relationship. We're not providing help. No, but I apologized. You apologized to me, Lena interrupted. Not to Maisie. And even if you'd apologized to her and meant it, that wouldn't change my decision. You showed me who you are, Carolyn. You showed me that your idea of family has conditions. You showed me that you view my daughter as less than your biological grandchildren. I can't unknow that. I was wrong. Yes, you were. And you still are. Because you're calling me asking for help, asking for things to go back to normal, asking me to make your life easier again. You're not calling to make amends to Maisie. You're calling because you're facing consequences and you want me to make them go away. Silence on the other end. Then, very quietly, I'm alone. Lena thought about that. About Carolyn in her ranch house, the photographs of family surrounding her, the traditions and structures she'd valued so highly now empty and meaningless. About Carolyn making the same casseroles for no one, setting the table for one, keeping schedules that no longer mattered. Yes, Lena said, you are alone. And do you know who else was alone? Maisie, at your Thanksgiving table, surrounded by family who was told she wasn't really family. My daughter was alone in that moment, Carolyn. And you put her there. Lena, please. I'm done with this conversation, Lena said. Don't call me again. If you want to apologize to Maisie, write her a letter. But don't call me looking for absolution or rescue. You won't find either. She ended the call before Carolyn could respond, then set the phone down and returned to folding laundry. Her hands were steady. Her breathing was even. She felt no guilt, no second-guessing, no doubt. She had protected her daughter. That was all that mattered. That evening, after Maisie went to bed, Lena stood in the hallway outside her daughter's room. She'd been thinking about something for weeks, and tonight felt like the right time to act on it. She went to her office and opened her laptop, pulling up a design program. She worked for an hour, refining and adjusting, until she had exactly what she wanted. Then she saved it and sent to print. The next day, she stopped at the frame shop on her way home from work. The print was ready, a simple design, black text on white background, the font clean and readable. She chose a thin black frame, nothing fancy, and brought it home. In the hallway, right across from Maisie's bedroom door, she hung it. The frame held a single sentence, the word she'd been thinking since Thanksgiving, the rule she'd been living by without quite articulating it. Anyone who questions your place loses theirs. When Maisie came home from school, she stopped in front of the frame, reading the words slowly. What does it mean? She asked. Lena knelt beside her. It means that you belong here. You belong in this family. You belong in this house, and at this table, and in this life. And anyone who suggests otherwise, anyone who makes you question whether you have a place, they're the ones who lose their place. Not you. Never you. Maisie studied the words for another moment. Then she looked at Lena, like Grandma. Like Grandma, Lena confirmed. She questioned your place, so she lost hers. Will she ever get it back? I don't know, sweetheart. That depends on a lot of things. But even if she did, it would never be the same. Because I know now what she's capable of saying. And I won't forget that. Maisie nodded, then reached up to touch the frame, gently, tracing the words with her finger. I like it. Good, Lena said. Because it's true. And I want you to see it every day. I want you to remember that you are permanent and everyone else is optional. They stood together in the hallway, looking at the framed words, this new rule that would govern their lives from now on. A rule that was both shield and sword, protecting Maisie from those who would hurt her and cutting away those who couldn't accept her. Lena didn't forgive Carolyn. She didn't need to. Forgiveness implied a desire to restore something that had been damaged. But Lena didn't want to restore this relationship. She wanted to protect her daughter from it. Grant came home to find them still standing in the hallway. He read the frame, then looked at Lena. That's a good rule, he said. Yes, Lena agreed. It is. That night, after Maisie was asleep, Grant and Lena sat together on the couch. The house was quiet around them, peaceful in a way it hadn't been in years. Do you think we did the right thing? Grant asked. Lena thought about it. About Maisie's question in the car, am I temporary? About Carolyn's words at the Thanksgiving table. About the weight of 8 years of trying to prove they belonged. about the lightness of finally accepting that they didn't need to prove anything to anyone. "I think we did the only thing," she said. "The thing that protected our daughter. The thing that showed her she matters more than tradition or blood or anyone's definition of family. Yes, I think we did the right thing. Even if Carolyn never changes, even then." Lena leaned her head on his shoulder. "We didn't do this to change her. We did this to protect Maisie. And we did. What if Maisie asks about her grandmother someday? What if she wants a relationship?" "Then we'll support whatever she decides," Lena said. "But we'll also make sure she knows she doesn't owe anyone a relationship who hurt her. That forgiveness is a choice, not an obligation. That she gets to decide who deserves a place in her life." Grant was quiet for a long moment. Then, "You're a good mother." "I'm a protective mother," Lena corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there?" Lena thought about that. About the way she'd changed since becoming Maisie's mother. About the fierceness that had grown in her. The unwillingness to accept less than what her daughter deserved. About the lines she'd drawn and refused to uncross. "Maybe not," she admitted. "Maybe they're the same thing." They sat together in the peaceful quiet of their home. Their daughter sleeping safely down the hall, the framed rule standing sentinel in the hallway. Lena felt no regret, no guilt, no second-guessing. She'd protected her child. She'd established boundaries. She'd shown Maisie that actions have consequences and that love means standing up for someone especially when it's hard. In the end, that was the only ending that mattered.